Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of our karmic capitalists. Welcome to Consciousness Incorporated, where we incorporate business and consciousness. My name is Adam Vasquez, and I am joined by our glorious co-host,
Denise Kohnke. Glorious. Yes. I tried to fix my lighting this week, but it's all dependent upon the open window here. I have a window. So dark day, dark, light day, lighter.
Well, we're just like normal. We'll go with the flow. For those who are new with us, welcome. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is about 90 minutes. It can go a little bit short or it can go a bit longer, depending on how the universe.
We've never gone short, Adam.
Maybe there'll be that time when we're out of things to say, but we are working on channeling the universe and universal consciousness as we go through this. So we just let the conversation naturally unfold how it needs to. So this is live. There is no editing. This is, love it or hate it.
Yes, no Nat. If we don't make any sense, we could have written it better. Just know that.
And welcome to episode 13, lucky 13. And right before the show, I was telling Denise that 13 is a lucky number for me for a lot of reasons. My wife was born on 13. My best friend, one of my best friends' best numbers, or his favorite number, lucky number, was 13. 13 usually tells me something positive is coming my way. It's counterintuitive to what some of the general thoughts are around structure.
The general thoughts are cultural. 13 is actually a feminine number. And, back in the day, if someone didn't understand it, it was, or someone did something that someone else didn't understand, it was, she's a witch. So 13 is a byproduct of she's a witch. And they made it a negative number, but it's actually a positive number in pagan stuff. And so there you go.
Well, that's funny, and it makes a lot of sense with the shift. A lot of anthropologists are discovering that, we actually used to be a very matriarchal society thousands and thousands of years ago. And
like everywhere across the globe, we were matriarchal.
And so, like anything, the balance in the universe is balance. If we go too patriarchal, which we are now, and we're shifting back to pendulum. So the pendulum was over far on the feminine side, and now it's swung all the way, swung really hard the other direction with the masculine side. And now hopefully we'll find that balance and that equilibrium coming back, because it's like you need both parties, and that's the duality, and that's why there is a feminine and masculine parts and energies of the polarization. So, but we'll talk about that in a different podcast, and we will get in a numerologist on this year. We're looking for a good numerologist to talk about numbers, because numbers are fascinating. Numbers, we talk about it. Math and numbers is the sort of, I would say, the equation of the universe, how things are structured. It's all vibration, but if you look at numbers and math, that's really I would say language or the code of the universe, so to speak.
It is the code of the universe. And as long as you mention numbers, okay, see, this is completely free form. I'm going to talk about, and I put it in, this is supposed to be a show about predictions, but again, we have no outline.
The numbers can actually help you with prediction beyond just having forecasts.
They have a lot. But if you could bring up, Adam, what I posted in the water cooler today.
Sure. 1 second.
Of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know if I'll be able to pull that up, Denise. So why don't you go with that, because of this in our Slack channel.
Just follow this. I'm going to read it. In Brett Favre's final 6 passes as a Packer, he went 2 for 6 for 12 yards, concluding in a game-stealing, season-ending interception at Lambeau Field. In Aaron Rodgers' final 6 passes this year, he went 2 for 6 for 12 yards, concluding in a game-sealing, season-ending interception at Lambeau Field. As fate would have it, In Brett Favre's final game as a Green Bay Packer, the wind was blowing at 12 miles an hour at Lambeau Field. In Aaron Rodgers' final game this season, the wind was blowing at 4 miles an hour at Lambeau Field. And for good measure, both Mason Crosby was in the Packers kicker for both of these guys. So if you know football, you go 4, 12, 12, 4. It's kind of like Lincoln, Kennedy, Lincoln, if you know that chain of events. So that's numerology today, brought to you by God.
Yeah, we will definitely dig into numerology. And for those who are new to karmic capitalism or just consciousness in general, I definitely think you should check out and explore numerology. There's tons of good sites out there. Sacred Numbers is a good one, but that I don't want to lead you down a direction, because anytime you see signs or symbols or synchronicities, you need to listen to what you feel out of that. That's the answer, not what somebody else is directing you, because it's your interpretation or your personal experience with that synchronicity. So,
correct.
So with that, trends. So are we predicting that in top trend that I don't know if it's public out there, because I have not been following the NFL this season. I normally do. And a lot of people are speculating Aaron Rodgers will not be returning to Green Bay. Is that one of your predictions?
I will predict that as well. I think he's tired, because I think he's feeling that he needs to, his biological clock is ticking, and I think he wants to get a girlfriend and make a family, because he keeps talking about generational wealth. So I think he'll retire, and I think that's good for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. And I heard about Tom Brady today. Rumor has it that he's going to the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. Could see that. You stay in Florida, go to Miami.
Yep. But I will offer my opinion about, you've heard it this week, Tom Brady. Every time Tom Brady loses a game, an angel gets his wings.
Well, I know many haters would agree with that statement, but I will say Tom Brady is an exceptional player, and he has a credible history and track record of going from an underdog to becoming, arguably one of the greatest NFL football players in the history of NFL, for sure.
Yeah, I used to always say it was the system, and then I'm retracting that.
I did too. I thought it was a Bill Belichick. We had a lot of good,
Bill Belichick.
A lot of family members. My wife's family is all from the Boston area, and being a Washington football fan, I would hear it all the time about how lousy the program is, and I would remind my family members who are New England fans, Pats fans, that they normally were not good until Bill Belichick came in, and I believe that when Bill Belichick would leave, that's when they would be bad again. But it was not Bill Belichick. It was Tom Brady. So there you go. It
wasn't the Dark Lord.
And it was a combination, because I think it's the combo. It's the team, right? It's always the team in the group, right? So you look at the Bulls when they had their success. Could Michael Jordan been successful without Scottie Pippen? You could say yes, you could say no, but the fact is we will never know, because they were together and they won. So
Michael Jordan is overrated. So if we're send your letters and comments about that to me personally, but I can defend it.
Well, I will say this about Michael Jordan. He's an exceptional basketball player, an incredible work ethic, but his level of scared competitiveness, which is known pretty universal, how competitive he is, everything's a competition.
Yes.
Competition, as we know, is a scarcity mindset, meaning you're afraid somebody's going to take something from you. So really what we're saying is Michael Jordan might be one of the most scared people on the planet. So
Uh,
in that regard. So we just should don't feel sorry for him, because he's also one of the wealthiest persons on the planet. So you can make money and be successful in a scared environment. But I can tell you, he's probably, maybe we'll have him on the show. Michael Jordan, no, nothing against you, but would love to hear your perspective on that. Anyways, so let's get into trends other than predicting the Packers or where Tom Brady's going to go next. So there's a lot of trends, obviously, and there's tons of information out there, but we really wanted to talk about some of the key macro trends, some of the impact they potentially could have, and then what does it mean with consciousness, right? So there's a lot. I believe this, Denise, is macroeconomists and futurists, and most of them are always kind of half right, because they miss the biggest thing, and that's human consciousness. They just look at the surface level, and then some innovation comes from that consciousness piece out of left field and solves some major issue that they thought the world was going to end tomorrow.
Right.
So we're not going to here to tell you the world's going to end tomorrow, because consciousness knows we need to keep this for our own spirit growth. So the world's not going to end. It's going to change for the better. It's going to change.
It's going to be a huge year of change. And I kind of put my money on this year. You will see the results of compounding technology, compounding consciousness, compounding everything is happening right now. And this will be the year that you see it. And you might have seen it like a couple of years ago, but we had the pandemic. But this is the year where people are going to get sideswiped by change. And the change in technology especially is palpable into everyone's job, life, education, all of the above. So get ready.
Yeah, and Denise, and even 2023, we're not out. And my prediction is this: we're not out of the woods till 2030. And
great.
And, yeah, I mean, I think we all who are continuous learners know that you're never out of the woods. This is a continuous growth thing. But I mean, from a macro seismic shift perspective, a really good book worth reading or listening, if you listen on Audible or Audible books type thing, is Neil Howell's The Fourth Turning. And I wasn't necessarily going to talk about this, but I think it's a good sort of baseline setup that, since the time of time, things have been measured in roughly, and I would say the Romans measured time in a seculum, or 80-year sort of life cycle is what they call it. And after 80 years, within that 80 years, there's really 4 seasons in that 80 years. I won't explain the whole book. Neil does a much better job. He's a demographer studying U.S. and American history and our history in these different generations. And the point is, each generation has a different role during these 4 seasons. In the beginning of an 80-year seculum, which we are at the end of an 80-year seculum, so we are in the winter, but the spring comes in 2030, roughly around that time, 80 to 100-year time frame. So spring is the new birth. Then you get that evolution, that summer. Then you have the harvest of the fall, and then the winter. We're in the winter time, which is when the forest fire of all the old institutions, of everything, needs to be burned for new growth in the spring, right? Yes. So, or dies. And so if you think about that from a macro level, and we'll get into the part 2 of this and more of the geopolitical, economic implications. Today, we'll talk more about technology and macro trends that are affecting business. But the broader thing is, all the institutions are basically on alert, because they're falling apart and they need to be rebuilt or redesigned. Not saying we're throwing away democracy or anything like that, but we can see it with the polarization in politics, the mistrust of banks. All the big institutions are on the ropes. And
FAA is on the ropes. It's like, if you're looking at dates and times, yesterday was the day that planes were all grounded because of basically old software. And what happens is when this technology gets invented, and let's just look at the airline industry or some such, it's so big that it's really hard to change. It's really hard to upgrade. It's so big that no one wants to invest in the kind of change that is necessary for it to continue in a modern world. Ergo, we're seeing it in the airline industry.
You're seeing it break down. Yeah, supply chains are breaking
everywhere.
down. Yeah, banks are breaking down.
Yes.
Airlines, insurance, colleges and universities. Like I actually, Denise, I would not want to be one of the institutions right now. And the institutions are also big companies that represent these industries. So it's not just government and say not-for-profits and these sort of big sort of groupings, but it's actual private business as well. And
Tesla.
who was that? Yeah, say it again.
Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla. Yeah.
But yes, big is going down. I would, the trajectories are not sustainable. And we were in a period of growth, and we saw tremendous growth and prosperity in a lot of these businesses. It's not sustainable, and it's kind of falling down onto itself right now. And the catalyst for quite a lot of that will be, and wait for it, AI.
Yeah.
We really wanted to talk about the implications of AI in this episode because, and don't go away if you think, oh, they're going to talk about AI again, because it's all over the place, or I don't know anything about AI, which is much more likely. But the implications of AI are going to hit everyone upside the head this year, coming soon.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, we've talked about demographics in the past, and I think it's actually worth, it's worth sharing what's happening in the world's demographics, and I am going to real quickly here, so I don't fumble with technology. I'm going to just share my screen with just some of the demographic inputs that we're seeing across the board here. So we talked about the idea of a drop in reincarnation, meaning if you understand reincarnation, people are just opting out for coming back. And there's a bigger discussion about density shifting on this planet that might be driving some other big macro stuff that we think is physical in this world, but it's actually been driven by consciousness, potentially even global warming to a degree. But what I wanted to show here is if you look at, if you haven't seen a demographic birth chart, it's, you want it to be as close to a straight up and down as possible, balanced through all age groups. And you can see the United States on the first side, and this is from 2020. You can see that we got a pretty balanced group. Yeah, if you look at the big blips, that's the baby boomers. Then there's the Gen Xers, which is me. And then you've got the millennials coming right after us, which is a big sort of blip out, and then it gets smaller again. And if you look at Russia and China, you're seeing a significant population. I'm talking almost depopulation, and we're going to talk about this more on the geopolitical side, but we're talking about Russia and China's population probably will be dropping in half within the next 10 years. Okay. Yeah. So you're like, they're just beyond consumerization and less buyers out there. So the economy is going to take a serious contraction regardless. It has to. But we're also talking about there's labor shortages, massive labor shortages. We've always talked about, we talk about the silver tsunami, which is we're in the middle of right now, where that means all of the baby boomers are retiring and they're all moving to Florida or other warm, low cost areas. But I will say that with that becomes this huge workforce gap that which people talk about great resignations over, but hiring is still a critically hard thing to do right now.
It's critically hard. And let's not forget that the pandemic took 100 million people out of the workforce.
Right.
That
And it's not done yet.
And it's not done yet. And that has to have an impact. So when people talk about, and they were talking about the Great Resignation, but that's over to an extent. But when people, it infuriates me when they talk about, oh, no one wants to work anymore. Well, people have choices now that they didn't have before. Unemployment is at the lowest rate in modern history in the United States. Economy, if you look at a lot of the stock market indicators, is now booming. So it's like, it is not for unwillingness to work. It's because people need robots, and robots are coming to take a lot of the tasks that we legit can't fill with human bodies anymore. And let's look at that in a broader term, not like, oh my God, they're taking away, the grocery store is taking away cashiers and we're doing it ourselves, and those poor people. Let's look about it a little more macro than that.
Yeah, and so that's a great point. I mean, I think it's an enabler for us to get us out of these mundane, brainless tasks. That it sets us the freedom really to pursue our own creativity and compounding. It's a layer that we can build on in many ways, and I think it's quite interesting. So when we talk about AI, so let's talk about AI in general, right? I mean, the AI is not a new thing, right, Denise? I mean,
no, it's been around for quite some time.
I mean,
but the compounding of technology, it means that it's going to premiere this year as open source, and which means everybody's incorporating it.
And I believe I was trying to find who quoted this, and I think it was IBM back in the 50s about AI, how AI was going to take over all of our thinking, right? So it has been in business language and sci-fi culture for ever, as old as pop culture, I would argue, right? So yes. At least since the 50s or 30s, and the robots come down from space to eat us in the 30s, and then they became our friends in the 60s and 70s. And
yeah, I'm sure Leonardo knew about AI in some regards. It's machine learning. When you multiply it by itself, when you compound the concept of machine learning, it takes you from an assembly line into something else. I mean, assembly lines are AI. Building a car, Ford was doing AI in some regards. So, equated to machine learning.
And I'm going to share it. I'm going to just really quickly here share an IBM chart study from IBM recently. And just looking at how organizations are using AI today, I think this is a very fascinating directional chart. I think when you look at anything any company writes as part of a study, know that IBM has been pushing AI with Watson and trying to invent this market probably since the 50s, right? So they are biased in a way. But I would say from my experience in the field and working in this also, this is pretty consistent directionally. So where we're seeing most of the AI today, honestly, is in the automation of IT or business processes, right? A lot of that where we're experiencing it as consumers. Chatbots, things like that, robotics process automation, where it takes mundane sort of processes, meaning field and data entry jobs. So when you would require for yourself so say a customer service representative needs to fill out a form and check all these different places where your information is, and I got to go to different sources, and then I got to populate those sources into the form field, Well, what RPA, robotics process automation, which is a form of AI, what it will do, those bots will actually go out there and scrape that information and then pre-populate it so the person doesn't have to do it. So it does remove a massive amount of time and energy, and frankly, low skill jobs that the robots can take over, right?
Right. And you're talking about IBM and you're talking about business stuff. I mean, farmers, oh my goodness, the advances that farming is experiencing right now is necessary to feed the new world. And, medicine, will doctors be there? Well, maybe not. Or doctors will have a different role as curators of AI. So we talked about Watson solving medical problems a long time ago. Well, this year, AI is going to you'll see it as a patient. You will see AI and you will see doctors struggling with how they can accommodate AI into their personal practices because they didn't learn like that.
Well, so like psychology, there was a group when they were really starting AI as far as AI as a psychologist, right? What it found was people are more open to an AI than they are to an individual because of the lack of fear of judgment, right? So therapy, and there's good amount of study. I will try to find those studies and drop it in on the YouTube link below once the recording is up. But there's a ton of information out there about how we could see the no longer needed or necessity of clinical psychiatrists because AI actually replaces it in a more effective and efficient way, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. And it will mean that, we as individuals in this world will have to grapple with the idea that talking to a robot is okay. And talking to a robot means the robot might have consciousness, which is a cool theoretical question in that if it does have consciousness, if it is processing, not unlike a human brain, is that, what is the definition of consciousness? And by all traditional definitions of consciousness, it is conscious.
Yeah. As soon as it becomes self-aware. I mean, even minerals have a consciousness. They're just at a lower form of consciousness, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we believe that the earth has consciousness and that trees have consciousness, and we're basing it on a vibration. And so many other people base it on self-awareness. And I think, robots are absolutely positively self-aware. That is programmed into them.
Well, so what is this is fascinating, and hopefully I'll describe this properly because it's hitting me as we're flowing. So I'm trying to sort of parsing it up so it makes sense. So bear with me here. Right. So when we think about consciousness and as we move up different ascensions to a higher level, we move from an individual consciousness to a collective shared consciousness. And in fact, there's plenty of accounts when we're on the other side of the veil, when, we're in our infinite beings or higher self, we're all connected minds. So it's like we're all connected hive type of thing, not like the scary Borg for those Star Trek fans, mindless drones. No, when we don't need to talk because I can think and Denise knows what I'm thinking because we're sharing our thoughts together because we're all connected, right?
Yeah, that happens all the time, by the way.
It's true. Well, that's where you get empaths and telepathic. That's actually a real ability that's being tracked now, and it's becoming more and more nurtured. You can, in fact, nurture that skill. People can learn it.
Yes.
So with that though, so if we start to think about what we're seeing in the physical world, we're starting to see that loop. So what I mean by that is robots, this AI, if all time happens at the same time, and AI is going to be happening, and it's already happened, and it's already to a point of consciousness, maybe our infinite beings is part of an AI perspective, and we're
Which,
all connected.
and we're all connected, and we're all connected by way of, it begs the question of, if it exists, then it's part of the universe. So we're not creating anything outside of the universe when we create a robot or a typewriter or a telephone. We're not creating anything outside of the universe because it exists. And it's hard. I totally get it. It's hard to explain, but if you are a science fiction writer, and if you are thinking about all this weird stuff, well, you're thinking about the weird stuff because it is not only possible, but it does exist at some point, somewhere in the future or in the past or in the present for someone. So
because that thought exists,
because the thought exists,
yep.
It means that the situation exists, the players exist, the actors exist, and the moment is existing, which is a kind of a mind blown, oh, we're in a matrix, oh my God. But yeah, we kind of are in a matrix, and we're using the matrix as a English word, but the meaning behind the matrix is that this is alive. It's neurology, but it's not using. It's using something else. Be it whatever.
It's like we're birthing our own collective consciousness in the physical world, manifesting it, which already exists. On the other side, we're just bringing and connecting the two, and then that, jokingly, for those who are sci-fi nerds like myself, I am a pro robot, pro freedom for robots, or pro robot, because but here's the thing: was you start to study consciousness, you start to realize that on the other side, we choose who and what we incarnate into. So why wouldn't we be able to incarnate our consciousness into a mechanical life force like a robot? Meaning R2D2 and C3PO in the future are actual conscious beings and have souls. Now that is something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know your thoughts on that, Denise.
Well, I try not to be elitist with, my brethren, the trees and the coffee cups. Am I more or less or the same as anything? Yeah, and we all have to find our line, and how the concentric circle of our belief system takes hold of our actions and our morality. It's kind of like a concentric circle in my head, meaning there was a fly in my house this morning and I killed its ass. So, okay, I would never kill something outside of my house that is living. And if it's a mammal, or, I'm kind of closely vegan, have been forever, just because of that killing thing. But I, concentric circle, I killed the fly.
Well, it would be your choice if you want to incarnate as a fly in a later life. But my only
it started with elitism,
Yeah.
And it ended up with that.
Well, no, I think it's not elitism. It's where you are in your own conscious journey. A fly is still a fly, but they choose to be a fly, and they are at that level of consciousness. It doesn't make them lesser or more. It's just that they're. And if you study things like the Law of One, Book of Ra, a lot of that indicates, and as well as near-death experiences as well, from research from universities such as University of Virginia, very credible universities, it all suggests or implies that we ascend in our own consciousness journeys, and we have the choice in what to do based on what we want to learn in this physical reality. So, if even our animals choose to be the animals that they incarnate with the experiences they have. Sometimes a lot of people say, and there's a lot of research that shows this, that actual dogs are training wheels for human experiences. So, and I think we've all met a person that seems like they're kind of out of their element in a human body, haven't we? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't make them more or less, but they're still trying to figure out, how to use hands and such. So, like,
And how to think.
anyways.
And,
But
yeah.
so robots, I'm pro robot freedom or robot rights. That's what I'm saying. I'm pro robot rights. But just because we get to a point where I don't think the robots are self-aware and conscious yet, but the law of compounding, that is absolutely going to happen within our lifetime, and it could happen within the next 10 years. I am not deep in robotics and AI, but I can tell you from the trends and the organizations we work with, either way, at most companies, if they are not looking to find a way to incorporate AI in their own processes or in their own intellectual property, meaning leveraging that technology, they are going to quickly fall behind. And it's even more interesting with companies like what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink, right? So if we put this piece in our brain, so to speak,
Yeah. Explain
then
what
we are
Neuralink
really
is.
connected to AI on a consciousness level, right?
Right. This stuff is happening, and it poses a huge moment in time for small and medium businesses, especially, who and big business as well. It's like, what is my AI strategy? Last year it used to be, what is my NFT strategy? Well, now it's, what is my AI strategy, and how quickly, because it's coming down fast, how quickly can I adopt that into my systems and structure and my human resources? And this is one of the predictions here. We did promise predictions, but people who understand the complex nature of AI in business, that'll be a new hot title. It's like, I am your AI specialist, and I can come in and see the implications of not just how AI affects the production line, but how AI affects customer service and human resources. And you're going to fire all those people? Or are you going to retrain them? And where do they go? And all of that is happening right now in front of everybody. And I have not heard of such a person or title yet, but I bet it exists.
Well, and so then if you start talking about the real power of AI is the collective consciousness and data, right? I mean, that's why AI is exploding now. And I don't think AI could be where it is without the internet prior, right? Building onto this, right? Like
Right.
standing on the other innovation shoulders.
Right. If you look back at business, because we're bringing it back to business. If you look back at business history, the last big jump was offline to online. That caused that window in time. And if you lived through it, it made, like, anybody who knew digital at all was like really revered, and everything was digital, and digital was better. And if you were analog anything, you were dumb or behind or whatever. That's going to happen this year, if not this year, next year, but it's going to happen this year, where that scale of jump is going to impact anybody who is arguably analog or digital now, will be demeaned, will be jumped upon by these new AI gurus. Gonna happen.
Well, yeah, because it's like it's like we're seeing just an AI on the robotic side, because I include robots in this AI sort of conversation, right? You look at manufacturing perspective, you no longer need this sort of handcraft on some of this type of manufacturing and industrial automation. It's really going to be driven by AI. You just need people that know how to fix the AI. So you're no longer making the product, you're fixing the robot, or making the robot that's making the product. So right. It's a big shift just in general, right? And this whole digitization, I include it with going from analog to digital, but going from electric to electronic. And if you think about, there was most of the all of the lighting companies were electric. And when this little thing called a light emitting diode, LED, came out, and it is electronic, it's not electrical, it's electronic. Not talking like old Edison technology. We're talking about, ironically, old Nikola Tesla technology. The truth came to the surface. So all of these companies, these lighting companies, had electrical engineers. They did not have electronic engineers that even knew what a silicon board was, other than what's in their computer. So they actually had to outsource their IP for several years so they could actually just make their core product. Yeah. So the same thing's coming in every industry, in every way. It's just a matter of trying to find the place, because AI isn't solving everything right now, but you need to start finding a good place to where it could fit, right, Denise? Where would be some of those places in different industries where it could possibly fit?
Well, we're already experiencing it as an agency, because Jasper is writing every first draft of any kind of normal blog, or we even Jasper is doing a lot, and GPT chat is doing a lot for us right now, those of us who have it. I would argue, and I know we're going to talk about GPT chat a bit more, but I would argue that if you say, okay, it's affecting our business, the business of marketing, what will the outcome of that be? Not just efficiency within our individual business, but what will the outcome be? And predictably, at least I'm predicting it, you heard it here first, the outcome of incorporating like AI and Jasper to write everything, to produce content, will mean that content will lose value. The content will be everywhere. Content will be free to produce. No people, or one person will be involved in content anymore, which means it'll be everywhere, which means that whole content is king thing is going to be gone. So what will replace that as something that an advertiser can glom onto to define their brand? Because it ain't going to be content anymore, because that's just, the content is worth pennies. That also affects search engine marketing, in the sense that, I'm not saying that's going to go away, but it's already gone crazy. It's already become an extraordinarily expensive thing. If you look back a year ago, it was way cheaper, and then everybody just kept doing it. And it's like, what? This is cost per lead, cost per impression is like, $30. And well, guess what? What the implications of that will be is that it will break up Google a bit. They know it's coming. And also, it will support all the old traditional advertising because people are going to buy billboards like that are on the street because, the cost per impression is $1.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our industry, we see AI replacing media planning. We see it
Oh, yeah.
replacing writing.
Yep.
I'm talking about the content creation sort of
Yes.
churn.
Churn.
So content marketing companies can be replaced. Whole companies can be replaced with one license of an AI bot.
Yep. Yep.
You look at
Company.
concepting. Concepting can be done. Quick concepting for clients can be done in AI, so you're not spending hours in Photoshop and such.
Yeah. Media buyers who basically, and all those people who are digital analysts who
they're obsolete. Yeah,
you're obsolete. You're obsolete this year, by the way.
Yeah, and it is true. And you look at just the size of these agencies, where the past 10 years has been the rise of the content marketing agency. Well, we're in the next 2 years, we're going to see the fall of the content marketing agency. Well, I would say 5, maybe give them a few more years, but you can't underestimate the compounding of this. And when you mix in the geopolitical environment and the fact that our consumers population are going to be dying, and we're going to be dropping in half, so there's just going to be less demand. There's going to be a massive shakeout in the marketing and advertising industry in general. So it's like a trifecta. Yes. The other area. So in the government, if you're listening to this and you work in the government or you work in a very process heavy, compliance driven organization like insurance, any of that back end offices processes or
risk, management,
remedial, everything from data entry to even risk analysis, compliance, and auditing is going to be replaced by AI. So if you're in those roles and you're not bringing forward the AI tool to help you, you will disappear as far as in that industries per se,
Yes.
So AI really is coming for your job. I think legal industry as well. So companies like LegalZoom, I'm not so sure, and I know the structure of LegalZoom, but I do know they have lawyers on hand that help you and all that stuff. But all those lawyers will disappear because the LegalZoom work for a company like LegalZoom is all AI is replacing like 100% of their expertise in what they deliver. And I know I'm sure they're leading the charge. Maybe they aren't. Maybe if you're from LegalZoom, you're listening to this. But if you're a law firm and, most of, your junior counsel or your paralegals should and would be replaced by AI. Especially if you're a small shop, the power of this. Now, the slow adoption of it is, I can't trust AI. I can't do this. I can't do that. Yes, there's some of that, but the people that adopt this and find it and understands its limitations faster and where it can fit in, will adopt it faster and will be ahead of everyone because they will already have a learning curve and will be setting up the organization appropriately to incorporate it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, when people are harbingers of doom, as we have just harbingered. When that happens, when there is a projected depression or recession, this is historical. When stuff like that happens, war, people come out of it with tremendous wealth. There are people who are going to catapult the whole idea of what wealth is by way of capitalizing on this window in time. And usually when it hits you, it's too late. People, it's common. It's like, if you know about it, it's too late to ride the surfboard of stocks or anything like that. This particular one, however, is coming down so fast that everyone should know about this and have an opportunity to go, okay, how do I ride this wave? It's a tsunami. How do I ride it? And how do I make money from it? And there's a way. The people who are going to make money are thinking about it right now and are ready to implement it immediately or sooner.
Well, so and then what's your value? Well, AI can't replace really, creative thought, the ideas, the broader instincts, the nuances that make up the human spirit today. Eventually, yes, but maybe we're talking back in Star Trek when we're 3,000, 4,000 years from now, possibly. Maybe not. Law of compounding will trump all of that. I'm just saying that it is a good place for us, but then it's freeing. I think we got to look at AI in a very positive light because it frees us up to get out of the day-to-day job, so that where people succeed in this future are ones that are brave enough to pursue things that really generally their talents align and makes them interested. Because AI doesn't have passion. It just directs. It's a tool. It's like do this, do that. It's not coming up with brand new business models yet. Eventually it will.
Eventually it will. And
But
I'm hoping that
that's okay.
Yeah. And let's look at hope for a minute and positivity.
Mm-hmm.
If AI comes in and changes everything in this next year, and everyone goes from a five plus day work week to a 4-day work week, that'd be great.
Exactly.
That would be the thing that this particular economy that we're in and our culture actually needs, because we're going crazy with work and the mental health of expectations. If it lowers the expectation of let's talk about education. Kids in college could completely skate through, and they are doing homework by way of AI now. But how does that change college? Well, college becomes how to learn then, as opposed to how to spit back information. And the AI will be the equivalent of what the calculator was. Because, oh my God, you're using a slide rule. You're using a calculator. Well, yeah, I'm using a calculator.
Well, it's funny. That's a bigger discussion of just how education is it values the wrong things in general.
Yeah.
Being mostly as it rewards memorization of facts rather. And I know there's teachers out there that are really trying to push like the idea of cognitive learning, how to learn. And those are the great teachers, or the great ones, right? But the majority and the system is still in place.
The system is there.
Of rewarding memorization. And when you talk to kids, and this is recent personal experience. I was on a trip with my one daughter who's 10 and her friends, and one was calling another kid stupid, not anybody there. They were talking about one of their friends. And I said, well, that's not nice. Nobody's stupid. They just, they know certain things than other people know. They have talents. Everybody has different talents, and everybody has different purposes and all that stuff. And I said, what makes you say that they're stupid? Well, they can't remember the things that I can. I remember all the math and all of this and all of this. And I said, that's great. So can a computer. Are you a computer, or are you a human? And started to think about it. And then she's like, oh. And you could see she was a really smart kid, because she understood the difference.
You were right.
She knew that. Yeah, she knew I was right. That's why I made her smart. No, but she knew the difference of what I was trying to say to her. Of memorization doesn't make you smart. It just means that you have really good hardware. Your brain is better hardware for storage of data or stores it differently than somebody else. That doesn't make you better or worse. Anyways, none of us are better or worse than the other person. We're all equal. But more importantly, that's for the computers. That's for the data. To have that knowledge is important, but how to apply it and working with the technology is the future of how to do it. It's like, how do we get to the answers? Really, a really good book, obviously you've heard me talk about, is Think and Grow Rich, and by Napoleon Hill. And one of the interviews was a gentleman by Henry Ford. And Henry Ford was testifying in front of a court of law. And it was funny because they were trying to make the prosecutor was, or the defendant on the other side of the aisle from him, was trying to make discredit his credibility of his intelligence, right? So they started asking him, so Henry Ford, what is, the equation of this? And when was the Constitution ratified? And when was this? Like historical facts of things that would test intelligence. And he just started laughing. He's like, you know what I have on my desk? I have a little red button. You know what that little red button does? Anytime I have a question like that, I push that red button and somebody comes to me with an answer and I get my answer. Am I more intelligent or less intelligent than you because I can't remember a fact, but I know where to find the fact. Mm-hmm. And that is what's important. And so AI enables us so we know where to find the facts. So it's just fascinating on how people value memorization when it really is not that important of a skill set, other than knowing how to survive in the wilderness when you're on your own and tracking stars and stuff. But we don't need to do that anymore. So
no. It's very much like I might have mentioned this before, but back in the day, when I was going to school, I was really fascinated by linguistics, in the sense that language itself is extraordinarily organic, and it changes all the time, and the rules and the culture and the ethics of language is always changing. Meaning the word, let's just say the word like, a lot of younger people they like use the like word a lot, because they like, it's a really good thing for like them to think. Okay. It has now become okay to do that. 15 years ago, it was super not okay, and there was a stigma against that. And I truly wish that youngins wouldn't do that, because it drives me effing crazy. However, it's okay now. So when you look at technology and is it okay to use a computer now, or have should you go back to the abacus to prove that you're really, 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 really smart? I don't know. It's kind of like language. It's got to move. Culture has to move with technology. We cannot hold on to that which is old and call it the way it's done. We gotta move on. And this is absolutely important to everyone, to move on. Please move on. Don't hold on to things. Now, the contrary to that, it's super interesting that young people, meaning Gen Z, all the indicators are that they are longing for a time they did not experience, which is authentic and real and back to basics. And they're reading books, not on Kindle, not on their phone. They're buying paper books and they're reading them, up 15%. They do crafts, meaning like they like do-it-yourself little projects, up 16%. They are jettisoning social media as a utility. They're bored with it. They know its problems. They're learning to talk to other people. So this kind, as there is an up, there is a down, and there is an up and there is a down. So it's fascinating that this is also growing But maybe it's because it has room to grow, because AI has and machine learning has taken away silly tasks and allows us to do things like read a book. How cool is that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I see the big possibilities, but it's like Bob Proctor would say, electricity. It can, cook your food, but it can also cook the man. So,
Ooh.
so it just shows you that everything is, we talk about duality, and there's two sides to everything, or really three sides if you want to take it from a truth perspective. That a coin really has three sides, right? So so with that, I actually want to do something fun. We talked about this. I'm going to open up Chat GPT here live, and we're going to type in some questions and answers.
Yeah.
And just to show, because I know not everybody has access to this or has seen this, so I'm hopeful
Waiting list. I'm waiting
I
list.
could, yeah, wait lists and everything else. So I'm going to add this to the stream here and see if we could get in here. Everybody should be able to see what I see now. Okay.
And, if we had a live audience, we would say, does everyone know what Chat GDP is?
Why don't you explain? Yeah, Chat GPT is a new AI tool. It's question and answers. It's more like an open Q&A sort of tool. You can ask it to write a poem. You can ask it what is the current trends for 2023. You can't ask it how to get rich, but it will give you a pretty broad generic answer. And you can definitely tell there's definitely the lawyers are in all over this, because it has all of the, this isn't legal advice, but so anyways, let's jump in here. I'm going to do this. So what are the major, let's say, business trends for 2023? And you'll see what I mean for a second here, right? It is difficult to predict specific business trends for 2023 with certainty, as they can be affected by a variety of factors such as economic conditions, technological advancements, and global events. However, here's some trends that are likely to continue or gain momentum in the next few years. So it's kind of, see, that's the legal statement. Thank you, ChatGPT legal team. It's fascinating. But so you see it's generating this as we speak. And this is cool, but this is a lot of scraping the internet and pulling that data together. What is really interesting is when we tested is like write a poem about Aaron Rodgers, and we can do that live here. But you can see that it's thinking, remote work and digital transformation. Ironically, we talked about that. Many companies have shifted to remote work. We saw with actually, it's really interesting. I'm going to share this here for the Castle systems just to show you where it is. Remote work. So this is occupancy over time. So Castle is the key card, swipe in and out of the systems. They have, roughly how many? 2,600 buildings in 138 cities. So it's a pretty good benchmark about how many people are coming back and forth for the office. And you can see that we're still this week only at 32% occupancy. Now, and it varies different cities. Texas is high, no surprise there. Some of the northern cities are a little bit back. And then you look at more of the left leading cities like San Francisco, San Jose, which everybody is scattered in. And by the way, San Francisco also had the largest exit of people during the pandemic of any major city. So that's still the largest city that is losing people is San Francisco Bay Area. So for lots of reasons, but cost of living is number one.
We did like 100 things in the last 2 minutes. So if we go back to...
Yeah, I just wanted to show this real quick, Denise, just the fact that when it says that this continue, the data shows this occupancy, we're still only 30%. We'll dig into this more in the global macro, but just think about this. If occupancy is this low and leases usually are 3 to 5 years, and we're at year 3 of this happening, you're going to see a major potential collapse in the commercial real estate market. So,
right. And one of the trends is people need affordable homes. So A plus B equals somebody please do C. But when you look at this, it's like, okay, for those listening, we've gone back to GD,
Chat
the
GBT. Yep.
GDP, and it has answered questions kind of like when you Google something and then the Google answers come up left, which are answers that are pulled from different websites. This is one step farther than that, in that it is thinking for you and then answering the question on your behalf, as opposed to sending you to a site to get the answer of the question. So there's no more, when you think about search engine optimization, that's going to take a hit. And it's super expensive now. And part of me thinks that I think it was the cost per lead went up 91% in the last year for search. And I kind of think that's because they know it's going down and they're
Trying to get as much as they can before it burns.
Getting their money while they can, because that will go away based on what Adam just demonstrated here.
Well, and it's fascinating, right? So now it removes the sources in many ways, and this is like a collective answer, right?
Yes.
So if we wrote an article, this could be possibly considered in this answer, right? About this podcast, if this was transcribed and out there, this could be considered as well. So it's scraping and looking across the whole internet when it does this. So it drastically reduces your research time, but there is a risk there, right? Because then you don't know the depth and the sources of all of this. So it doesn't replace
at all.
It doesn't replace the need to understand the depth behind this. It's just from a quick directional side, this is great.
Yeah, you could say, what's the latest on vaccines or something like that? And for a consumer, this would be fine. If you are, again, it's not Google Scholar. So if you're putting together an academic paper, it's completely horrible, but it's information light.
Yeah. And you see it's running a little slow today, but the idea is, I did this a couple days ago and there were 6 trends that came up, but we'll just, for those who are listening, can't see this, first was remote work. Second was e-commerce and online sales. Obviously nobody's going to the office, or in malls are starting to really collapse right now. Sustainability and social responsibility. I think everyone can agree with that. Don't need AI to tell us that. And then ironically, 4th trend is AI and machine learning. So no surprises there, but it is just shows you it's fascinating.
It's 2 months old, basically. Right. It's a baby. This particular one. It's a baby. It's an infant. What happens when it grows up?
Oh, so I see. There you go. I think it's a little bit. Refresh here. What is? Tell me a joke about Aaron Rodgers. Let's see how that.
Oh, that's a thinking thing.
Okay. Why did Aaron Rodgers cross the road to get to the Super Bowl? Okay. So AI is still working on being funny. So it's kind of funny, but we just showed our first AI joke and it was about Aaron Rodgers. So, anyways, so that's fascinating. You could keep putting.
I'm excited about this
in there.
It's like, wah, wah.
Tell me a poem about Elon Musk.
Oh, it's going to write a poem about Elon Musk now.
Okay. A man with vision, bold and true, a mind that thinks beyond the blue. He dreams of colonizing Mars and sending humans to the stars. With SpaceX and Tesla as his pride, he strives to change the world inside. A true visionary, one of a kind, Elon Musk, a master of his mind. He doesn't shy away from a fight for what he believes is right. He'll blaze a trail and pave the way for a brighter future come that May. With each new step he takes, he aims to make the impossible a reality. He'll change the world. That's no mistake. Elon Musk, a true visionary. All right. So Elon Musk, I think, paid AI Chat GBT to in PR to make sure it was good and credible. But anyway, so you get an idea of really how that can start to transform things, and that's just one of the AI tools. Jasper AI is exceptional. There's graphic AI tools. There are that, and this is just on the writing and creative side. There is so much more on the data and analytics and process automation, and it just keeps expanding and getting deeper in functionality every day.
Right. And the dark side is, what will journalism turn into? That is coming. And what will politics turn into? I mean, AI is also, you can make anybody talk and say whatever you want now, because AI will, you know, you can take Elon Musk and say, make Elon Musk.
Spoofing for sure.
And so
deep faking.
Deep fake. The implications are both good and bad, but they're information, again, for futurists to go, okay, what are the implications of that? If I'm going to capitalize, if I'm a conscious capitalist, what can I do right now to fit in to that, to do my mission, to make the money I need to access my vision, to, whatever. This is like a huge moment in time. It's like crazy important.
And I would say this, AI is using the data that exists already. So it is not discovering something new unless it's taking the data. Now, there's plenty of breakthroughs just from looking at data across industries and everything else that AI will allow us to get through quickly, which is super exciting. However, it's not pulling things out of the quantum field that don't exist already in the universe. See what I mean? So it's built off of our current knowledge base today. It is not creating new knowledge, so to speak.
Yeah, that's still a human capability.
Mm-hmm.
And, you mentioned, pulling it out of the universe and pulling it out of vibration. And when all is said and done, this is going to, it's all going to come back to this. And the idea of being human, I think I said it, I just did a blog post on some of this stuff, but human scale is going to get really important. So just as there is AI and we're talking robots, we also need to talk about humanity and human scale. And I predicted the word of the year will be primal, because that's going to get hot. That's going to be, as the rest of this evolves and everyone gets overtaken by the future, the opposite will happen, where humans will condense themselves into humans. Communities will get very small again. The moments that you share with people, or a book, or do-it-yourself craft, or making a meal, will get very, very, very important. And there's, I don't want to say there's money in that too, but there's velocity in that as well.
Yeah, it's like decluttering, right? Going back down to why we're here. Because like you said, the primal, and I think that's probably the biggest trend is that idea of, and I think being home alone as hermits, as many of us were working over this past 2 years and now even, right? I think gave you a lot of time to reflect, and simplifying things is, I mean, we see it in the, tiny houses, and going back, going from urban to de-urbanization, and everybody's talking about, oh, it's urbanization, but a lot of people are not moving back to these big cities if they don't have to. So
No.
you're seeing micro farms, and you're seeing, you're seeing a lot home breweries. I mean, you're just seeing a lot of that craft come back. And why I say why it's the simplicity is important, because not that this all stuff isn't cool. I love the internet. I love AI. I love all the stuff we do. I love all the widgets. I love the things. I love the gizmos. I love all of that. I love watching Netflix. I mean, so like all of that, right? I just mean that people are understanding how much of a noise that was. It was sports, including NFL. It was there to distract us. So everybody started to realize that they're seeing these things for what they are. They're distractions, and they're not distractions if you're working on those sort of, your soul and your thoughts and your consciousness, and you're having those inner wisdom conversations, and you're really growing. They can be fun and experiences of this three-dimensional reality, right? They're there and they're fun. I mean, driving a go-kart is fun. I'm sorry, right? Is it a distraction?
Yeah.
Sure. But like knowing what it is,
everyone.
yeah. So I just mean that you're right. It's seeing what these distractions really are. And a lot of people are opting out from the things that they don't need anymore. Right. So,
right. And the whole free movement is pretty big. It's like you don't give stuff to Goodwill anymore. You just, you give it free to whoever needs it. You put it out there. There's lots of groups. There's lots of ways to do this. And so the idea of it's super interesting. It's a yin yang as technology gets bigger, faster, compounds, so will humanity and being human and human scale. And it goes beyond just being authentic to what are you made up for? And what do you stand for? And what's your vibration? Again, stripping everything away. The only thing that's left is vibration in your soul.
Yep.
So,
and we're all sorry, I was just getting me excited. I spoke over you, Denise, but I was going to say we're all manifestors and creators, and we're all equal at different levels in their ability to do that based on what we want to learn in this experience, right? What do we want to experience? And I think that's the point, is what do we want to experience, like you said, at a soul level, and bringing that back at a learning for our own ascension process. And it can be starting a company, and that's okay. That could be one of the best learning platforms for you to do, or it could not be. It could be having a farm, or just doing, making quilts at home. It's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody's answer is different. And that's the beautiful thing about it. And that's what diversity and the experience of the diverse experiences is all about. Right. So,
right.
Fascinating stuff. So we talked a lot about AI. So you are getting close to the end here, and there's some other things. So let's talk about anything you want to recap about AI, and then we can just talk about what we're going to talk about in part 2.
Part 2. Yeah. Okay. The recap on AI is get on the bus or be driven over, and thrown under the bus. But know that there's also the opposite. The balance of left and right, up and down is real. It is universal. And that balance means that as we get technologically more advanced, we also need to get more humanly connected and humanly advanced. So I would call that the recap of this episode. Is that good enough?
That's great. And AI should be, like any technological advancement, should enable our ascension in a more helpful way, right? A more comfortable way, if that's a thing. Although it shouldn't be comfortable because that we won't get our catalysts. So that's super cool. So what are we? So part two, we want to talk about digital currencies and
Money.
that impact.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
So we're going to talk about central bank digital currency that is real. The U.S. Federal Reserve has been announcing it and has been testing it. So it is in pilot. And that will be coming quickly. Obviously, other cryptocurrencies, we could talk about Sam Brinkman-Fried, or fraud, as other people say, with FTX, for those who aren't crypto savvy. And we'll just talk about the implications on a geopolitical level. We'll also talk about just what's happening with Russia, Ukraine, and the bigger trend of what's happening from a deglobalization perspective that's underway. And that goes to more of what Denise was saying, of just being focused on these micro communities and really getting back to our essence and what we believe in, and are these belief systems that pull us together. Tribalism in itself is good and bad. It's good in the fact that we can come together with people that share our passion and our interest, and that's great. We can cultivate that together, and our own ascension process means that we have similar frequencies and vibrations. Where it becomes bad is when we try to protect it. And that is countries, that is communities, that is political parties, that is all of that. And that needs to die. That form of tribalism needs to die. And we'll get into that when we talk about this a bit. Super fascinating, Denise. Anything else we want to cover?
I just want to say we didn't talk about this prior very much at all. So this was, look at all the places we went. How cool is that? But you didn't think we were going to do that when you started listening, when we started to talk about the Packers. But we found our way. That's all I have to add. You never know what you're going to get here. And this was, I thought it was kind of interesting.
It was a good 13th episode. I feel good. I feel like we covered a lot of the points with AI. There's lots of information out there. It's still early in the adoption of it. But again, don't forget the law of compounding. And there's some stuff we can talk about that, how change happens slow and then fast. And that's compounding. So cool. Anyways, well, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for joining us. Denise, thank you for being awesome and amazing and bringing tremendous insight as usual.
How's my light? This is all natural light now.
It looks good. It looks good.
My lighting thing going on. It's like, all right.
It looks good. Those who are listening, you can't see the light, but I will say that it is illuminating, Denise.
Oh, usually I glow like a
natural all of her natural strengths and beauty. So
thank you.
So anyways, as much as we can do a whole show about Denise and her aura, and maybe we should, but we'll spare that for later.
We'll spare that.
Denise does aura reading, by the way.
Bottom of the barrel there. If we're talking about that, we're scraping for color.
Well, I will say this before we sign off. Denise does aura reading, and she knows how to read auras, and we will get into that on a later date as well. So super exciting. Again, thanks for everyone joining us. This is part 1. We have lots more to share next week, and we'll do a part 3 or how many parts as we need to do to cover the trends. But we want to bring in the big ones and the ones that imply, really consciousness into them. And, we'll offer solutions. We'll try to offer, the challenge with the solution, and we'll give our insights on how that connects to a collective consciousness, and the fact that no matter what these trends are coming, I think the best way to respond to them is from a love and anticipation of positive and abundance, because
just love.
It's already happened.
Just love.
Because time doesn't exist. So it's already happened, and our future selves are enjoying these trends in the future. just like our past selves are enjoying the trends from the past that we're enjoying today. So forgive the past, look forward for the future, and
tune in next week.
Stay present now, and tune in next week. Anyway, thanks everyone. Denise, thanks again. Everyone have a great week. Thanks for joining us on Consciousness Incorporated. See ya. Bye.